Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Wendy Rasmussen. I am the sales manager of the EluVac product division here at Pickering Laboratories. Our video today will demonstrate how the EluVac vacuum chamber can save you time and headaches in your lab when you go to clean up your samples. The greatest benefit of the EluVac is the increased throughput. Where other column manifolds hold only 6 or 8 columns and may need multiple pumps, such as in a positive pressure system, the EluVac system can hold up to 20 columns and needs only one single vacuum pump. The circular design and sealed tray at the top allow for the same amount of vacuum to be applied to each of the columns, and also the system is designed so that there's minimal handling of the columns and vials. This is achieved by the ability to turn the entire top tray just 10 degrees from the load to the inject position. In the loading position in this configuration, the channels are directed into a central beaker and liquid flows down into the center. And then when you turn the tray to the inject position, samples are then loaded into unique ports at the top and into the collection vials, which are below here. You can clean up to 20 samples at a time, thereby increasing your throughput. The instrument as shown here is configured for 10 samples, and today I'll show you how easy it is to clean samples using the EluVac in just a few minutes. We begin with the sample extract in need of cleanup, and for the demonstration purposes today, we use deionized water to act as our sample extract. First, we'll make sure that all of our columns are in place on the EluVac, and that each of the valves is in the off position. Now, when you're facing the valve, the off position is when the black dot is perpendicular to the tube. So let's go ahead and check that now. Okay. And when you're ready to go, we'll turn on the vacuum pump and pull the vacuum into the EluVac system. You can adjust the amount of vacuum using the regulator on the side, just here. Now, the loading volume will depend on your particular method, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to load 5 milliliters of sample extract onto 2 of our columns. Okay. Now remember that while I'm doing this, we have vacuum on the system right now. Our tray is in the load position, and the valves underneath the columns are in the off position. Okay. Now once all of your columns are loaded, we'll slowly open each of the valves. And we'll do a quick check to make sure that each one is draining. Now some methods specify a particular flow rate. If that is the case, just open these valves maybe a quarter turn or even less until you see the desired flow. So once all of your liquid is draining into the central beaker, when it comes time to elute the samples now, we're going to close the valves again on each column, and we're going to turn off the vacuum pump to release the vacuum. And the reason we want to turn the vacuum pump off and relieve the vacuum is because now we want to turn our tray from the load position, which again is directing the samples into the waste beaker in the center. We're going to turn it from load to inject position, which will direct the flow of liquid into the collection vials underneath. Okay, so once the vacuum is released, we can lift the tray. I'll just turn it now 10 degrees, so now the tray is in the inject position. And a good way to remember that is if you think of your sample being ready to inject onto the HPLC system, you can remember which position is correct for which opportunity. Now we're ready to load our eluting solution onto the columns, and this will wash our analytes into the collection vials below. Okay. And now we'll want to turn on the vacuum pump again to pull the vacuum. And we'll make sure our valves are closed until we're ready. And when you're ready to go, we'll open each valve. Again, the open position now is when the black dots are parallel to the bottom of the tube. And now this time, your sample is going to wash through the column and go directly into the collection vials below. Okay, now once that's done, again, you can see this is only taking a matter of seconds. Once that's done, you'll turn off the vacuum pump, and you'll lift your sample tray and set it aside. Now you have your channel trays. We'll set that aside too. And now you have your collection vial full of a nice clean sample ready for analysis. Now that was a typical use for SPE columns and only a few milliliters of sample. But using the same system, it is possible to pass liters of sample through the cleanup columns and collect your analytes of interest. We simply replace the beaker in the center with a central tube and replace a large specialized bottle between the outlet of the EluVac and the vacuum pump, which will collect your waste. The large volumes of water can be collected in the bottle, and the fraction containing your analytes can be collected in up to 16 milliliter tubes inside the EluVac. This feature allows you to match the size of the collection bottles with the volume of your sample. So now that you can see how easy it is to use the EluVac system, I want to tell you that you can configure the system to match the needs in your laboratory. You can configure up to 20 samples at a time, but using the same configuration, you can choose to run 1 sample or 6 or 8 or 10. As far as the sample loading volume goes, you can load up to liters of sample or just 1 or 2 mils depending on your method. And you can collect anywhere from 1 milliliter up to 100 milliliters in the collection files below. The configuration is entirely up to you. So thank you for joining us today to see the EluVac, and be sure to check our other product videos for the latest in laboratory productivity.